and this morning I'm doing USPSA style. So I actually have my USPSA style holster and gear. We're going to be talking about the draw process, some of the speed tips in terms of drawing faster, hand position, and probably most importantly, figuring out how to consistently draw the handgun out of the holster, without making any mistakes. Before we get going, I should introduce myself. For those of you that might be new to this live stream, my name is Mike Seaclander. I'm a professionally sponsored shooter with Team Wilson Combat, also a full-time instructor, as you can tell, waking up this morning. And so I've been doing this for a lot of years. We've been doing these live streams for coming up on almost 3 years now. Originally called the DDC. I'm actually wearing my DDC shirt. You can see that I got my shirt all tucked into my belt. The DDC, everybody's doing it. But the bottom line here is, we've been doing this a long time. So I've been covering these specific subjects that hopefully make you better shooters for a long time now. So this is the way it goes. Number one, safety is important. So please, if you're going to do this with me, if you're going to dry fire with me, if you have your gun, double check, make sure you have an unloaded and clear firearm. I'm actually going to be dry firing with one of my Wilson Combats. This is my single stack gun. This is the gun set up for USPSA single stack because today's tip or today's live stream is USPSA speed draw. So this is my CQB Elite. I've got an unloaded and clear firearm. And then I have, of course, I've got some magazines on my belt, primarily because when I have the belt set up here, I want to have my belt set up and kind of balanced. So if I just had the gun on one side and no magazines, I probably wouldn't be as balanced. But I have a few magazines on my belt. I have nothing but empty magazines. I'm not even going to use the magazines this morning. So do me a favor and check your magazines. Make sure you are in fact unloaded. Now, we're talking about the draw today, and when I'm talking about the draw, one of the things we often talk about is, okay, I've got my holster on, I've got my gear on, I'm going to draw the handgun really fast and fire a shot. Drawing fast is one thing, but understand that learning the principles of consistency, meaning in this particular instructional video, the 3 key index points. I'm going to talk about the 3 key index points today. Number 2, I'm going to talk about how and when the hand should be moving. I'm going to give you a secret tip on more specifically what most people are probably doing wrong, and then I'm going to show you 3 different start positions from the draw process. Okay, so it's going to be a very, very good video to help you build your consistency, and consistency is going to give you speed in terms of your draw process. Okay, so real briefly, in terms of USPSA style draw process, the speed draw, I'm going to talk to you about equipment, number 1. Then I'm going to give you those 3 index points or 3 index point specifics that will help you be more consistent and talk about consistency. And then I'm actually going to talk to you about how your hands move. And then last but not least, we're going to go through 3 drawing positions. Now, in terms of gear today, I have basically an inner belt and an outer belt on. So for USPSA, typically I'll wear an inner Velcro belt and an outer Velcro belt. Now this is a Safariland holster system 032 with both removable holster and removable mag pouches. I've been using these suckers for a long, long time. It's great gear. I love this gear. I've always loved my Safariland gear, but I did want to briefly mention some new stuff that I have coming to try out to show you as well, made by a company called Precision Holsters. So if you're looking for specifically carry gear, but then more importantly competition gear, these guys have been sponsoring the American Warrior Show podcast for some time. I've been carrying with their Ultra Appendix inside the waistband holster for a long time. Great holster. I think it's a phenomenal carry holster. I probably actually have one. I can show you one later on the video. But they are, excitingly enough, making a new competition line holster. So this is in comparison to my Safariland holster, which I can actually remove from the belt, by the way, which is one of the advantages of this clip type system. This is called the ELS or ALS system, where you have this basically locking system, and I can switch out handguns or gear or holsters on my belt, and everything maintains consistent. But both the holsters have very specific designs, so you can draw quickly from them. They have reduced friction. But I can tell you, one of the things that Precision Holsters did or is doing when they're designing these holsters is they actually looked at some of the aspects of the draw process and said, okay, we're going to look at how the draw is done, and then we're going to reverse engineer that process and build a holster to meet the needs of a quick draw, which is kind of unique. A lot of people do the opposite. They design the holster, then they tweak the holster till you can draw quickly out of it. So one more time, Safariland Precision Holsters. Check these guys out at precisionholsters.com and of course safariland.com. Both great products, but I'm really excited about this new competition line coming out. So let me put this back on here. Now, in terms of draw process, let's talk about what actually gives you speed. Tip number one, speed. Speed comes from the speed of movement, granted, but speed also comes from your consistency. So here's the deal. If I draw the handgun as quickly as I can, let's say I draw it super fast, right? And I put the handgun out there, but then I have to take the time to fix the sights or fix the gun alignment. Okay, is that fast? Well, some of you may say, well, Mike, it looked fast because you drew the handgun fast, but realistically, if when I get to full extension, I've got to fix the gun alignment, it's not necessarily fast because we're not talking about looking fast or feeling fast, right? Okay, that felt fast, but more importantly, shooting fast. And if I get to full extension on the handgun and I have to fix the alignment of the gun, that's not necessarily fast. So there's pro tip number one, there's a difference between feeling fast and actually going fast, okay? To go fast and shoot fast, the gun has to be aligned in the manner when I get to full extension and stop the gun on target, I see the front sight and the rear sight, and I see what I need to see to fire the shot, right? If that front sight is not in the rear side of the handgun, I'm not going to see what I need to see to fire the shot, okay? And the more time I have to take to fix the alignment of the sights, right? Think about this for a second. The more time I'm wasting. So while that may have felt fast, it isn't actually fast. So I'm going to teach you 3 key index points that will help you dramatically improve the consistency of your draw and more specifically the consistency of the alignment of the handgun. Index point number 1 is how my hand actually indexes the gun in the holster. Okay? Now when I actually draw the handgun, the first point of contact is just inside the web of my hand. And my hand actually makes contact and slides up the back strap of the gun. The reason I do this is because no matter where my hand indexes or touches the handgun, it's going to slide and drive straight up the back strap of the handgun. Now, a key point when I'm doing index point number 1 is my thumb is always going to be flagged high and up in the air. This is kind of common sense for a guy that has a 1911 safety, but even if you're shooting a polymer type pistol, my thumb would still be flagged up in the air. Of course, my finger's going to be off the trigger because I'm not shooting the handgun yet. So anytime we're not shooting, we're making sure that the finger's off the trigger, okay? So key index point number 1 is how the strong hand comes onto the handgun. So when I do this, I'm actually taking my hand and I'm sliding it up the back strap of the gun. Now, while I'm building key index point number 1, my support hand is going to go into the right spot, right? So when I talk about the right spot, typically I like to have my forefingers together and I want to have them somewhere center line of my body. So when the gun actually comes out of the holster and drives by my hand, my support hand can quickly get on the handgun, okay? So key index point number 1, write this down, is how your strong hand actually indexes the gun in the holster. Okay, there's index point number 1. Okay, you should feel the web of your hand, make contact, and slide up the back strap of the gun. Make sure you're flagging your thumb up and out of the way. That's key index point number 1, okay? Now let me introduce you to key index point number 2. Key index point number 2 is where you've taken this support hand, and if you put the support hand in the right spot, the second the gun drives by the holster, the hand or the support hand is going to index in what I call Judy chop. This is the trigger guard index point in the corner of the trigger guard of my hand. Now I want you to pay specific attention to this. If you notice, the trigger guard in my hand makes a corner. See that corner right there? So my left hand is going to index with my fingers open into that corner. It's like a choppy motion. It's why I call it a Judy chop, right? It's kind of a funny term. Just Google Judy chop and you'll find out why I call it that. But the official term is the trigger guard index point, okay? So this index point is index point number 2. Now, I want you to pay attention to the specific direction the hand is. It's like this, right? It's not like this. When I put my hands together like this, my hands can slip on the handgun. There's pro tip number 2 for you. Okay, this is index point number 2, but that's a pro tip for you. If I put my hand wrong on the handgun, it will not consistently stop. The reason I index the handgun like this, or index the grip like this, under the trigger guard, is because my hand hits a definitive stopping point. So in speed, or during speed, when my hands draw and both move at the same time, I'll talk about that here in a second, I can feel that choppy motion right there. Okay, that's index point number 2. Talked about index point number 1, where your hand is sliding up the back strap of the gun. Index point number 2, where I'm actually making contact here. Now here's a secret thing, or a little secret piece of information for you. Right, don't tell anybody if they haven't been on Facebook Live with me. You can't share this. To find out specifically, I want to get nice and close so you can see me this morning, specifically where I actually index my finger, where I touch my finger with the trigger guard. I'm going to reverse engineer this. So I'm going to take my left hand, or your righty if you're a left-handed shooter, and I'm going to put it on the grip itself in the perfect position where I'm pushing my palm into the grip. And then I'm going to wrap the fingers around, and I'm going to pay attention to that specific spot where that trigger guard touches my index finger. So I know now if I touch that spot during index point number 2, my hand will wrap around and into the grip. Now here's a tip for you advanced shooters, for you high-level shooters that may have missed this. When I do this, notice once I index this position, my hand doesn't just wrap back here because then it ends up low. See that? See how my hand's low on the handgun? It actually wraps in and up. Okay, in and up. Now I am ready to show you index point number 3. Index point number 3 is a feel or a touch point. Pay attention, that's why I'm nice and close to the camera here. Index point number 3 is where I take my hand and I rotate this portion of my thumb up into this curve of my thumb. So I'm rotating my hand in and up. Now there I wipe the safety off because typically when I hit index point number 2, I wipe the safety off because I want the safety to be down, because if not, when my thumb gets up there, it's going to be in the way, if that makes sense, okay? So index point number 3 is a touch point where my hands rotate together and my thumbs touch each other. So when I feel these two curves meet together and touch, now I know when I take the handgun and continue to extend it, when the gun stops on target, voila, the sights are perfectly aligned. I don't have to fix anything, and I can simply press the trigger, if that makes any sense, okay? So I've showed you, in summary, index point number 1, in the holster, drive the hand up the handgun. Index point number 2, gun comes out of the holster, drives it by my support hand, notice the angle. Index point number 2, and I just taught you how to build that index point. Index point number 3, when that left hand rotates up into the curve of the other hand, so these hands touch together, these thumbs I should say, the two curves touch together. Index point number 3, now I can tell you right now, my sights are not even up in front of my face. I don't need them to be. The second I take the handgun and push it out there, the sights are literally perfectly aligned, okay? If that makes any sense. How much of my palm makes contact with the back of the gun? That's a great question. Oftentimes when I'm gripping the gun, if you ever watch my grip video, we did one 3 or 4 weeks ago. I've done a ton of grip videos on Facebook, right? I talk about applying pressure to the back of the gun by taking my hands and counter-rotating my hands, right? That's a tip that I give all of the time and I think dramatically changes how the gun recoils and recovers. So when I say palms to the back of my gun, understand that if you're a right or you're a left-hand shooter, my right hand, if I'm a right-hand shooter, is covering up a large portion of my palm. But here's the thing for you. Because my thumb is flagged up and out of the way, right? My thumb is flagged up. That opens this thumb muscle up so I could take my left palm and I can actually push it into the back of the grip. So David, if I took my hand off the gun, I'm going to try to turn this around. That's about where my left hand is. Now, it may look like it's just on the side, but in reality, I'm actually placing pressure here, not just on the side of the gun, if that makes sense. And this is important because remember, the gun recoils in this direction. By the way, big tip number 2 for drawing the handgun, and here it is. When one hand moves, the other one has to move. So when this hand starts to grab the handgun, this hand has to move as well. Pay attention. Here's what it looks like. When I draw the gun, watch my hands. I'm going to put my hands nice and relaxed at my sides. Watch my strong hand and watch my support hand. When I move my strong hand, my support hand automatically moves. I do not move the strong hand, let the support hand lag, and then chase the gun. That's called chasing the gun. So if I don't move my support hand, when my strong hand goes for the gun, I'm going to end up doing what's called chasing the gun. It looks like this. So I'm chasing the gun with the support hand. I don't want to do that. I want to move both hands at the same time, right? So I can build my grip here early, and I can feel that index point. By the way, this is not the only way to there are more than one ways to draw the handgun and move your hands. My good buddy, Rob Latham, for example, actually leaves his left hand down, and he moves his left hand after he starts moving his right hand. So he starts moving his left hand here to build the grip. Right. We actually have a very interesting video, maybe I'll post one day, of him drawing and me drawing literally side by side as fast as we can, a little drill, and we end up on target at the same time. So my point there is, as long as you're moving your hands, right, you're going to build this consistency in terms of the two hands coming together. But if you leave a hand and you don't move a hand and you end up chasing the gun out here, trying to find the grip out here, you're going to get what I call a hope grip. I hope I get a good grip. You're never going to know if you're going to get a good grip. So no matter what, when your hands move, my suggestion is to try it like this. When one hand moves, they both move. Okay, so I can build a grip, fire my shot. Turn to the side for you. And when I'm doing this, if I've done my job in terms of indexing the handgun, when I stop on target, every single one of those, the sights were perfectly aligned, right? That's the key. That's why I just taught you those three index points. I'm going to show you how to practice the draw now. What I like to do is I like to practice from 3 different start positions. So when I'm working on my draw, I have a little target actually set up over there. I'll practice by drawing with my hands relaxed at my sides with one draw. Okay? The second one, I'm actually going to start from this position, index point number 1, and then I'm actually going to raise my hands directly above. By the way, this is the surrender start. To properly get into the surrender start position, notice how I've gripped the handgun, right? Just like I've done basically step 1 of the draw process. And then I'm going to take my hands and move them just above the handgun. This hand simply comes straight up. Now normally if I had my cap on, my thumb would be near the corner of my cap. And then my right thumb would be going right next to my earmuffs, right? So it's a very consistent spot. And then to draw the handgun, both hands move at the same time for my surrender start. Now, I'll give you a little tip for those of you that may shoot still challenge or whatever else. When I'm drawing the gun from a surrender position, I still like to come in from slightly behind the gun, but I'll give you 2 options. You could pull the gun slightly to the rear and index by driving the hand up the handgun, or you can actually come in slightly from the side of the handgun. So I'm coming in from the side of the handgun and driving the hand up high. Either way will work, but what you don't want to do with the surrender position is take those hands and move them straight down to the gun like this and catch on the beaver tail and miss that grip. So what I need to do is I need to physically pull my shoulders back just slightly. So I'm pulling my shoulders back slightly to draw from that surrender position. Okay, so when I practice this, normally I practice a draw where my hands are relaxed at my sides. I fire a shot, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and do my surrender draw. So hand comes straight above, the other hand comes straight above, pull the hands to the rear, fire my shot. And then the third one I typically will do is I'll take my hands and I'll put them on a barricade and I'll lean toward the direction like I'm looking across the edge of a barricade. So I have my hands on a wall or on a barricade, because a lot of times they'll have us start with our hands on the X's on a barricade, okay? And once again, watch how the hands move. They come back to my index point. And then typically on the next round, I'll go one more draw, hands relaxed at my sides. And I'm going to go hands, surrender. Okay? And I'm looking for consistency here. Then I'll go leaning slightly to the left. Now notice when these hands are on the barricade, watch how both my hands move to the rear. See that? They came to the same spot. So no matter where I'm drawing the handgun from, I'm bringing the hands to the same spot. Consistency. I always end up like this. Then I continue the draw process. Okay. So we talked about a few things today. Talked about gear real briefly. I showed you my Safariland setup. I also showed you this new precisionholsters.com holster that's coming out soon. Check these guys out. I'm telling you, this is going to be a bad mamma jamma. Number 2, I taught you 3 key index points. Number 1, where I index and actually build my handgun grip with my strong hand. Index point number 2, after the gun drives by, how I index into the trigger guard and the importance of making sure I know the right spot on my index finger, if that makes sense, okay? And then index point number 3, where my 2 thumbs come together or rotate together so I feel the 2 curves of my thumbs touch. Okay, so I've taught you 3 key index points. Okay, practice those. Remember, these live videos are the fundamentals. If you master these fundamentals with me and you practice what I teach you, the advanced stuff will very easily fall into place. Trust me on that, okay? So, back to the teaching. I taught you the 3 key index points. Then, I taught you how important it is when you're drawing your handgun for one hand to move and the second hand to move at the same time. I am never wanting you to chase the handgun. I want to move my hands at the same time and the same speed. Watch them again. Same time, same speed. There's that trigger guard index point. See that? Trigger guard index. All 3 of my index points. Index point number 1, index point number 2, index point number 3. Okay? And then, of course, we talked about the importance of consistency. Like in the beginning of the video, I introed with, there's a big difference between feeling fast and being fast. Being fast means when the gun is on the target, it's ready to shoot. I don't have to go, oh, let me fix it before I can shoot. Okay? Big difference. So if you work on these index points, then you'll understand that. And then I showed you how to practice this. I gave you 3 distinct positions of practice from. One where your hands are relaxed at your sides. One where you're in the surrender position, hand comes back. And the third where your hands are on a wall. Okay? Of course, 1911 has a safety. I have an ambi safety on my 1911. Okay? And I'll answer your question here in a second, right? What am I focusing on? I deactivate the safety typically right before or as my support hand indexes the trigger guard. The reason I do that is when I feel this curve of my thumb, index point number 3, rotate into position, it needs to rotate under the safety. If the safety's still up, as that hand rotates in there, the thumb gets in the way sometimes of the safety, okay? It's going to happen typically right about there. So as soon as you touch here, touch, safety. Touch, safety. Okay? Focus. What I'm focusing on before I draw the handgun is typically a spot, like a teeny tiny spot on the target. And what I'm doing is I'm picturing what I need to see and what I need to feel on the target. So for example, that's a full-size miniature Uspsa target on my wall, right? So if I'm trying to hit that target, what I'm picturing is the sight picture. All I need to do is see the front sight and the rear sight, and I need to feel the trigger just briefly before I fire that shot. So I just basically pictured something, and then I did that, what I just pictured, visualized, okay? Okay, so David wants to know between point number 2 and 3, okay? So index point number 2, safety comes off, okay? And index point number 3, about right here, David, okay? Let me get to the position where you can see. I start to feel my thumbs come together. Now I am seeing my sights come into my periphery. I can see my sights, but I can't clearly focus on it because I'm not fully extended. but I feel right now that I have a pretty good grip. I can feel my grip is very consistent. So about the time I realized when I hit index point number 3, these two curves come together, I see my sights come into place, but I already know they're probably going to be pretty good because I can feel my grip is perfectly built. At that point in time, if I didn't feel like my grip was perfectly built, I may slide my hand up or down or adjust my grip ever so slightly. So it's literally a millisecond, David, after that happens that I see the sights as I'm extending the handgun, and then I can very quickly make a determination if I am seeing enough of the sights to fire the shot or if I need to fix the alignment of the handgun. And let me compare the two. If I have seen enough of the sights to hit the shot, that's dictated, we talked about grip sights trigger on a previous video, by the distance of the target. So on the target I'm shooting at on the wall in here, I don't need to have much alignment. Let's say I was shooting at that thumbtack over there. Well, I may have to very precisely fix the front sight and the rear sight notch in relationship to that thumbtack to know I got the, or translate that to the real world on the range, a very small piece of steel. Like yesterday, I was working on an 8-inch piece of steel at 25 yards. When the gun stops, there's some micro adjustment or some micro fixing of the sights to make sure I can actually get the hit. So there's more time it takes because it's a different target than an 8-inch target at 6 yards or 7 yards or a bigger target. You know, we don't shoot at much bigger targets than that, but the point is, it varies. Okay, so that answers your question. Okay, these are the fundamentals. I'll tell you that these are not the advanced stuff, but if I can get the fundamentals across to you, we can work on the fundamentals together. I promise you, I'm going to make you a much better shooter, and that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to reach and change the world by teaching these fundamentals. Please help me reach other folks. If you're watching this video on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching it, tell people about it. Once again, it's 100% free. Hey, also, if you get a chance, go to precisionholsters.com, drop them a message what model of gun you're interested in seeing their competition line made for. I'm telling you, this is going to be one of the best ones out there. I've been a big fan of Sparline, still am. That's what I wear it to be with. But this dude is going to be incredible, okay? And I'll back to you. All right, folks, have a great day. Have a great weekend. Practice the fundamentals. Stay safe.